Jace Carter wiped the sweat from his brow, the scent of oil and scorched metal clinging to his jacket. The neon-lit alleys of Tarnak Station hummed with life, a chaotic symphony of alien voices, malfunctioning machinery, and the occasional explosion from the lower docks. It was a salvager's haven, a place where old tech and forgotten relics from across the galaxy found their way into the hands of those desperate or clever enough to restore them. Jace was both. His repair shop, Carter's Fix-It, was squeezed between a Graktar meat vendor and a questionable cybernetics clinic. A modest place, cluttered with half-dismantled engines, fried motherboards, and enough scrap to build a small fleet if someone knew what they were doing. Tonight, though, the shop was quiet, save for the occasional bzzzt of a welding torch. Jace was hunched over a decrepit-looking drone, its casing battered and covered in what looked like ancient inscriptions. The thing was old, really old, but something about it called to him. He didn't know where it had come from, only that the client, an alien girl wrapped in dark robes, had practically begged him to fix it. Please, if there's anyone on this station who can make it work again, it's you. Jace had seen desperate clients before, but something in her eyes had convinced him to take the job. Now, as he ran his fingers along the smooth metal shell, he noticed something strange. Most machines had structure, input, output, logic pathways, but this thing was different. It felt alive. With a deep breath, he powered up his diagnostic scanner. The screen flickered. Then it glitched. Then, for a split second, a stream of alien symbols flashed across the display before the entire device shut off. Jace yanked off his gloves, staring at the lifeless husk before him. "This isn't normal," he muttered. The station lights outside flickered. The air smelled different, like ionized metal and something ancient awakening. Jace swallowed. Something big was happening, and he had no idea what. Jace drummed his fingers against the workbench, staring at the ancient drone in front of him. Something about it wasn't right, not just the weird symbols or the way his scanner had freaked out. It was old in a way that machines shouldn't be. He had restored countless devices in his years on Tarnak Station, from busted NAV computers to experimental fusion cores, but this thing, it was on another level. He took a deep breath and grabbed a micro-welder, gently prying open the outer casing. The inside was even stranger. Most modern drones had standardized circuitry, mass-produced components, things any mechanic could recognize. But this, the wiring looked organic, like woven metal fibers rather than conventional cables. Some parts didn't seem to have a clear function, like they were built for something beyond simple computation. The deeper he went, the more unsettled he felt. Then, his shop door slid open with a sharp hiss. "Is it working yet?" Jace looked up. The girl who had brought him the drone stood there, hood still covering most of her face, but her luminous violet eyes practically glowed in the dim light. She was young, maybe early 20s in human years, but something about her gaze felt older. "Not yet, lady." Jace gestured to the disassembled drone. "This thing isn't just broken. It's a relic. Where'd you get it?" She hesitated. "That doesn't matter. Can you fix it?" Jace scowled. He wasn't a fan of half-truths, but his gut told him that whatever this thing was, it had people looking for it. "Look, fixing stuff is my job, but I need details. What's it supposed to do? Why is my scanner losing its mind trying to read it?" The girl sighed and stepped further in, pulling back her hood. Her silver hair shimmered under the shop lights, an unusual trait for any species he knew. "My name is Voss, and that drone is not a drone." She placed a hand on its metal shell. "It's an AI, an ancient one that hasn't been awake in over 3,000 years. Jace blinked. 3,000 years? No way. AI tech had only been around for a few centuries. No one had built anything that advanced that long ago. You expect me to believe that?" He crossed his arms. Naira's expression darkened. "Believe whatever you want, but if we don't get running soon, a lot of very dangerous people are going to come looking for it." As if on cue, a distant explosion rattled the station. Jace's head snapped toward the door. The sound wasn't from some random accident. That was a targeted blast. His shop wasn't near any high-security zones, meaning whoever set off that explosion wasn't after credits. They were after something else. Naira's face went pale. They're here. Who? She clenched her jaw. The Zender Syndicate. Jace muttered a curse. Zender. The biggest black market cartel in this sector. They didn't just deal in smuggled weapons and illegal cyberware. They were hunters of lost technology. And if they were here, that meant they knew about the AI. Jace grabbed a plasma wrench and worked faster. He didn't trust Naira, not yet. But if the Zender were coming, they didn't have time to argue. As he reconnected a few power nodes, a low hum vibrated through the workshop. The drone twitched. The symbols on its surface glowed faintly. Then, for the first time in thousands of years, the ancient AI spoke. Identity corrupted. System rebooting. Who am I? Jace's hands froze. Naira's eyes widened. Outside, the station went into lockdown. The Zender had arrived. The workshop's dim lights flickered as the AI's voice echoed through the room, a hollow and fragmented sound, more like a whisper from a long-dead entity than a functioning machine. Identity corrupted. System rebooting. Who am I? Jace's fingers twitched over the console. His gut told him that waking up this AI might be the worst mistake of his life, but at the same time, some deep, instinctive part of him was in awe. Naira, however, was less impressed. She pressed a hand to the drone's surface, her expression urgent. "Can you hear me?" she asked. "You were once called Echo 19. You must remember." Echo 19. Designation error. Memory fragments detected. Attempting reconstruction. Jace barely processed the words before another explosion rocked Tarnak Station. This time, it was closer. The workshop walls rattled, tools clattering to the floor as a mechanical security announcement blared overhead. Warning. Station lockdown in effect. Unauthorized hostiles detected. Jace swore under his breath. You want to tell me why the hell a black market cartel is kicking in station doors for a hunk of scrap? He gestured wildly to the drone. No, the AI. Naira hesitated. Then, as if realizing they were out of time for secrets, she exhaled sharply. Echo 19 isn't just some AI. It was created by the precursor race, the first civilization to ever conquer the stars. Jace stiffened. Precursor tech. His voice was barely above a whisper. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories. The precursors were an ancient, godlike civilization that had disappeared millennia ago, leaving only fragments of their technology behind. Anything with their mark was worth entire planets in trade, but was also highly illegal to possess. If the Zender Syndicate was here, it wasn't just for profit. They wanted power. And now, Jace had just turned the damn thing on. System restoration at 14%. Partial functionality online. Processing. Echo 19's voice was still fractured, but Jace's mechanic's intuition told him one thing. This AI was waking up fast, which meant they had a chance. We need to move. Now. Naira's voice was sharp with urgency. Jace was already grabbing a pulse rifle from beneath his workbench. He wasn't a soldier, but on Tarnak Station, every mechanic learned to carry at least one weapon. The front door slammed open before they could react. A massive figure stepped through the smoke. Zender Enforcer armor, dark green plating, heavy boots that made the floor tremble. The Merc's cybernetic eye glowed red as he locked onto them. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. His voice was cold, mechanical. Jace's grip on his rifle tightened. No time to think. He fired first. The plasma bolt slammed into the Enforcer's shoulder, but the bastard barely flinched. He charged instead, covering the distance in 2 strides. Jace barely dodged as the alien's metal fist crushed the workbench where he'd been standing. Naira was already moving, drawing a compact energy blade from her belt. She lunged, but the Enforcer was fast, swatting her aside with inhuman strength. She hit the ground hard, coughing as sparks rained from damaged wiring overhead. Jace's heart pounded. System restoration at 38%. Warning. Hostile presence detected. Echo 19's words sent a shiver down his spine. And then something changed. The AI's surface flashed, symbols glowing brighter than before. For a split second, Jace swore he saw ghostly energy flickering around it, as if the machine was remembering something long buried. The Enforcer raised his gun. Step away from the AI. Last warning. Jace clenched his jaw. Then Echo 19 spoke again. Error. Error. Defensive protocols reinstated. The entire workshop exploded in white light. For a single, terrifying moment, Jace felt weightless, as if reality itself had shifted. A high-pitched whine filled his ears, and the Zender Enforcer froze mid-motion, his body convulsing. Then, he collapsed, dead. Naira pushed herself up, eyes wide with shock. Jace barely breathed. What the hell just happened? Echo 19's light dimmed, but its voice was clearer now. Enemy neutralized. You are now under my protection. Jace swallowed hard. Outside, dozens of heavy boots could be heard approaching. The rest of the Zender Syndicate was coming. And now, they had a fully awakened precursor AI on their hands. The workshop walls shook as the next explosion tore through Tarnak Station. The air filled with the scent of burned circuitry and plasma discharge, and the flickering overhead lights cast deep shadows across the ruined workbenches. Jace barely had time to process what had just happened. Echo 19 had just killed a man without lifting a single metallic limb. Naira was the first to move. She grabbed Jace's arm, yanking him toward the back exit. We need to go. Now. Jace was still trying to wrap his head around it. That thing just saved us. And it'll do it again if we get it out of here in one piece. Hostile forces detected. Station lockdown. 92 seconds until total containment. Echo 19's voice was no longer fragmented. It was sharp, precise. The AI had been waking up before, but now, it sounded alive. Jace's gut twisted. Whatever Echo was, it wasn't just some ancient computer program. It was a weapon, and it was remembering what it was meant to do. The door at the far end of the workshop burst open, and 5 heavily armed Zender Syndicate mercs stormed inside. The lead enforcer's helmet gleamed in the dim light, his plasma rifle already aimed. Stand down, hand over the AI, and you might live to see another cycle. Jace didn't hesitate. He dove behind a storage crate just as the first plasma bolt streaked past him, burning a molten hole through the metal. Naira was already moving, ducking and weaving between shelves as she fired back with her energy blade's built-in pulse function. 2 of the mercs took cover, returning fire with deadly precision. Jace gritted his teeth and ripped open a supply locker, pulling out a prototype shock grenade he had been working on weeks ago. It was unfinished, highly unstable, but right now, that was exactly what they needed. He twisted the activator and threw it. The grenade detonated in a flash of white-blue energy, sending arcs of electricity dancing across the metal walls. The nearest Zender mercs screamed as their cybernetic implants short-circuited, dropping them instantly. Defensive measures reinstated. Tactical engagement authorized. Jace barely had time to react before Echo 19 moved. The AI lifted off the workbench, hovering midair as golden energy surged through its body. It wasn't just an AI. It was something else entirely. The remaining mercs turned their guns on it. Echo 19 responded without hesitation. The air rippled, and in the blink of an eye, the enforcers were lifted off the ground, their bodies contorted as invisible forces crushed their weapons like paper. One of them managed to let out a strangled gasp before his armor imploded around him. The others collapsed a second later, their bodies hitting the ground with dull, final thuds. Jace could only stare. What the hell are you? Echo 19 hovered in place, its golden-lit core pulsing like a heartbeat. I was built for war. I was built to protect. I was left behind. Naira stepped forward cautiously. Do you remember? The AI turned toward her, and for the first time, it felt like it was actually looking at her. Memory core stabilized. Designation confirmed. I am Warform Echo 19, last defender of the Precursor Empire. Designated to eradicate all hostile threats. The air grew heavy with those last words. Jace's stomach twisted. Eradicate. Echo 19's light pulsed. The Zender Syndicate is a threat. They will not be allowed to continue. A cold realization hit Jace. Hold on. Are you talking about the guys we just fought? Or all of them? The AI didn't answer. Instead, Tarnak Station trembled as a deafening alarm blared across every corridor. Warning: external systems breached. Zender forces have initiated full-scale invasion. Jace and Naira exchanged a look. The Zender weren't retreating. They were bringing their entire damn army. And Echo 19, it wasn't planning to run. It was planning to end them all. The station shook violently. Debris raining down from above as Zender Syndicate warships pierced Tarnak Station's outer hull. The flashing red emergency lights cast a hellish glow over the wreckage of the workshop. Jace's mind raced. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped with an AI that might decide to wipe out an entire species in the next few minutes. Echo, stop! Jace shouted, his voice raw with desperation. The AI's golden core flared brighter, arcs of energy crackling around its floating form. Threat level escalated. Engaging countermeasures. A deep, unnatural hum filled the air as every powered system in the station surged, flickering, then falling under Echo's control. The AI was already integrating itself into Tarnak Station, turning it into a weapon. Naira grabbed Jace's arm, panic flashing in her violet eyes. He's going to burn this entire place to the ground. The Zender won't be the only ones to die. Jace clenched his fists. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He had only wanted to fix an old machine, not awaken a war-born AI with genocidal instincts. He turned back to Echo 19, forcing himself to step forward. Listen to me. You don't have to do this. This war, it's over. Your empire is gone. If you kill the Zender, you'll be just like them. The AI's energy flared again, as if resisting the words. They are a threat. I must protect. Jace gritted his teeth. Then protect us. Not with war, but with knowledge. You said you were left behind. So why not make sure your people's wisdom isn't lost? Why not do something different than just destruction? The hum of power faltered for a fraction of a second. A hesitation. A choice. For the first time since its reawakening, Echo hesitated. Then, the station's power flickered violently, and the AI's golden light dimmed. Recalibrating directive. Protection can exist without war. Echo 19's form shifted, its glowing core pulsing slower, less erratic. The station stabilized, systems retracting from overload. The hum of approaching Zender warships outside the hull continued, but the station's weapon systems shut down. Jace released a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. So what now? Naira asked cautiously, her tail flicking behind her. Echo 19's voice was quieter now, more aware. I was created to defend. Now I will choose how. Jace nodded slowly. Then let's get the hell out of here before we find out what the Zender think about that. With Echo 19's help, they raced through the collapsing corridors, dodging fallen beams and unstable gravity locks. Jace didn't know what the future held for the AI, or for himself, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of it. They had rewritten fate today, and that was enough. 3 weeks later, Jace leaned against the railing of the outer docking ring, staring out at the endless void. Tarnak Station had barely survived, but it was still standing. And so were they. Echo 19 had disappeared into deep space, choosing a path that no one could predict. Some feared it. Some, like Naira, believed it was the beginning of something greater. The Zender Syndicate, they'd backed off, for now. The loss of a war fleet and a shattered command structure made them cautious. But they'd be back. Jace knew that. So, what's next? Naira asked, joining him at the railing, her usual smirk returning. Jace exhaled, letting the weight of everything settle. He was just a mechanic, but maybe, just maybe, that was enough. We keep fixing what's broken, even if it's the galaxy itself. Far off in the stars, a faint golden glow flickered. Somewhere, Echo 19 still watched, still learning. And for the first time in 3761 years, it was truly alive.